Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Second Act Actors. I'm your host, Dr. Janet McMorty, and I was and still very much am a medical doctor simultaneously trying to pursue a career in acting. This is another industry episode. My guest this week, I'm so excited for this episode. My guest this week is Vinnie Potestivo. Vinnie was a producer for MTV and casting director. He launched the careers of some of your and very much my favorite MTV reality stars in the 90s and early 2000s, like Lauren Conrad from The Hills, Mandy Moore, Danielle Fishel, TJ Lavin, the list goes on. He produced and helped cast like every MTV reality show that came out during those golden days of MTV. The Osbournes, The Challenge, The Hills, Cribs. Oh my gosh. Unbelievable. So we go into a massive deep dive into the history of his time at MTV, his journey through his time at MTV, and the impact of youth culture on this time. But now he has transitioned to his work now, more marketing and brand development for actors and creatives. He's a podcaster. He helps develop people who want to make podcasts and, their brand as creatives in this new technology, social media age that we're in, which is so different from the age that he was in, right? From the 90s, early 2000s, MySpace reality TV boom, which doesn't really exist anymore. So he's been helpful in helping actors and creatives transition into this new era that we're in. And so again, we do a deep dive into that as well too, about how we as creatives, we as artists and actors can promote ourselves in a exciting, not stressful, beautiful way in this weird and wonderful industry, social media age that we live in. I'm so excited for you to hear this episode. You're going to hear how happy, enthusiastic, generous this man is. I appreciated him taking the time to talk with me. I know he's very, very busy, very popular, but I can see, and I know you will see, why actors and creatives have gravitated towards this man, because he is just an absolute joy to talk to. Please enjoy Vinnie Potestivo. I got a little nervous when I get stuff from people's assistants. I'm like, okay, there's something to turn the imposter syndrome on. Holy crow.
My assistant, she's such a huge producer, by the way. She produces so many of our podcasts. And I thought, who better just to help stream? I want to be treated as a podcaster. Oftentimes I find myself in a situation where people will carve out, they'll treat me a certain way because I'm a casting director. They'll treat me a certain way because I'm a producer. And I'm like, no, I want to ignore me like a regular podcaster. Make me beg for information 10 times before you find I want that, because that gives me the real I know how to create in that energy. When I get fake energy and misled about how a platform feels or how podcasts are even supposed to go, I kind of get it in my head, and I like showing up empty-headed.
Well, and I think that and this is going to sound like I know what I'm talking about, which I don't really.
You do.
Well, the best part about acting for me, from someone who came from a very head full of, 25 plus years of education, the best part about acting is the ability to just get out of your head, as every acting teacher says. And you're like, oh, this feels so good, because I, for my entire life, have been in my head needing to be. And it feels so good to just not anymore.
It's got to be so weird as an actor to not be in your head when you have, you're looking at a reflection, a social media reflection of the interpretation of your life, which just is that's just like an audience, an unnecessary audience everywhere I go, except I'm the audience. Oh, everyone, when you get a bad audience in live theater, or you go to the movies and you're just you're just the wrong couple is in the room, so they just change the energy for everybody. So I feel that, though. I feel that.
I wonder about, especially with your career, where it came from, with it starting with, the golden age of, in my honest opinion, because I think we're of the same vintage of MTV and stuff like that, network television, and then now transitioning into your world of a lot of social media. Tell me about that. Tell me about the life. Tell me your life story.
It's funny. It's funny you say. I didn't get started in reality TV because Osbournes and Newlyweds and Punk and things like that didn't get created until I was already at MTV from our department. And maybe the 2 years before that, we took talent and took them into sort of this like unscripted environment and let them be themselves and started figuring out how to tell that story. I got to put Mandy Moore in her first film on MTV. I got to put Beyonce in her first film ever, her first leading role in a hip opera, a Carmen. Like that's like a ridiculous credit. But so let me be very clear. I was the executive casting assistant or coordinator. It was my job to do the castings and the auditions in New York. Most of the MTV Films, was run out of the West Coast, out of LA. So I had a unique position to liaise between MTV Films and MTV Networks because of like my casting ability and then also my access to the talent. So I would go down to TRL all the time when Destiny's Child is performing. Yeah, I wanted to know Kelly. I wanted to know Beyonce. I wanted to know all of them. And I tried to get them to be judges or a host on the Spring Break show. And you can never break the girls up. The label did not want Destiny's Child to get broken up. And it was a relationship with Matthew Knowles. Actually, Tina Knowles, to be really honest. Tina's the one who I handed the script to. Tina's the one who came with Beyonce that day that we weren't allowed to tell the record label, and she hopped in a yellow cab to come into Times Square. She came through the front door, and all this blows my mind because even then she was still Beyonce, Destiny's Child. Like it was a big energy that came with her, and that casting probably changed my life. That casting grounded me. John Singleton was the director, and it was me, John, and Beyonce who were in the room, and I'm holding a camera, and at first, I give like 6 feet to let Beyonce shine and act, like, I don't know. I have all these you talk about preconceived notions and educate. Here I am at casting. I'm like, oh, this big director and a talent. What am I supposed to do in the room? Blend? I'm 6'3", 250 pounds. Like blending, it's generally not like what I do the best in that situation. But that's what was brilliant about her audition. It was the scene in the Carmen hip opera. There's actually no dialogue, and it was literally just he wanted to see her eyes. So they did the scene. He gave her some notes, and that's when I realized, oh, this is how geniuses share notes with each other. He didn't say what you did wrong. He didn't say what you did right. He just said, what if there's this and this? And then he turns to me and says, and Vin, I want you just to stare at her eyes. I want you a foot from her eyes. I can see her performance. I'm in the room. I can see her energy. I'm in the room. I can't see what you see in that lens. I want to see her eyes. And I remember the level of focus and I almost thought to myself, oh, is she kind of overdoing it? She's not even blinking. She's like looking, like make straight eye contact. I watched the Academy Awards last night. I watched her open that show, and I watched her pierce into that camera. And and I get goosebumps thinking about this. So how could I not love what I got to do in reality TV, unscripted TV, when it got to mean that I got to help Ashton Kutcher become a producer and show the world how fun it is to produce? And also that a model actor who's on a hit TV show and a movie star is also capable of actually making funny TV. That was that's what I made. Punked was the result, And by the way, Punked, and I love working on Punked, working with actors. You want to know how I got to work with actors? Like in a really cool way, like in a way that stood out in their experiences because MTV in the late 90s, early 2000s, we come up with these interesting sort of ideas. And a lot of the times, empathetically, they were correct, But Punk'd was out of hand. And what I got to do with those actors that worked on it, Punk'd isn't about playing a joke on talent. Punk'd is about how far can we go? How much can we? How much of the suspension of disbelief can we actually, exaggerate? When is someone going to say, there's no way this is reality? So working with actors doing something like that is so cool because of the way that you process characters and life and situations and reality and outcomes. And so I've just loved unscripted talent, unscripted programming because it let me work with and continue to work with talented scripted actors that I never would have. I got to meet Tom Wopat, my childhood, the man of men from Dukes of Hazzard. Like there was not another guy that was on my wall more, but I got to meet him because he was a guest on the Tom Green show as not as working on the film with him, and I got to, and I had such respect, and I wanted to be a film producer. I wanted to be a Broadway producer. I went to Wagner College. I have an arts administration, a business degree in theater management. So I always knew I wanted to be producing. I thought I would have a Broadway sort of production house. I should not have been, I did not know pop culture music when I got to MTV. Spring breaks were very much me and Christina Milian and Mandy Moore singing Rent in the hotel pools while everyone else is going crazy. Like that was definitely my vibes. But it was really cool. It's really cool to get to create a character version, even like with Jessica Simpson, Jessica wasn't looked at as a serious actor. I don't think she's looked at as a serious actor now either. But Dukes of Hazzard, to bring up, that's my second time bringing up Dukes. It's a weird thing. You talked about vintage TV, so this is what you get when you open Pandora's TV box. But I think about how I got to teach, how I got to be a part of the learning experience for character development. I even read in Rolling Stone that Beyonce created Sasha Fierce, the character when she is Beyonce that we see on TV. She says that she created that when we were filming Carmen, a hip opera. Like that's so cool to be a part of that process. And then there's the castings, which is like for me the most magical part about acting was getting in a room and pulling out the possibility of an actor and then the challenge of making the producer see that and the challenge of giving those tools to a director, making them think it's their idea and so that they feel empowered and they know how to utilize what was given to them because it was always theirs all along, and you guys are on a high frequency and I love that I got to. And where else other than MTV, Times Square, in the late 90s, I got to meet every Broadway actor, all the musicals we used to do, and it was just a really cool opportunity. And then I've been talking a lot. I'm so sorry.
I love it.
I was gonna say, and then there's the whole like reality TV actor conversation, discrediting conversation that I survived. We all survived, and I hope we get to talk about that because remember, don't go on reality TV. You'll never be taken as a serious actor. It'll ruin your career.
Well, and I think about that time on MTV as pure chaos, and not in a negative way at all, but because my remembrance of it was watching it and being like, oh, this is you're like, I'm not allowed to watch this. Oh, this is crazy. And then I would revisit shows when my life was very structured. Like when I was in medical school and doing my medical training, I would watch some of those shows that I loved, like The Challenge, like Punk'd, like where it was just pure chaos, because this is going to sound horrible, because I liked watching people's lives be chaotic when my life was boring, because I had no drama in my life, and so I needed to create it somehow. So I'd watch the reality shows where there was fake drama created, but I loved it.
Yeah, well, the thing about drama on MTV, on those shows that you're talking about, versus the drama that you might have seen 10 years ago on Bravo and the Housewives shows, is youth culture. And I think that before social media, everything sort of felt frantic because we saw it through the single lens of television, which it didn't really fit in. And So when you talk about, going back and looking at the challenge and Wild 'N Out are the two shows my two legacy shows at MTV. They're the two shows that I put TJ Lavin in that spot, and that I knew it was going to go to some type of Olympian or like alt sport athlete. I knew that was the way I wanted to go, also because of their competition schedules and like how sports really works and how that show schedule really works. I got to work with Johnny Mosley and Dave Mira when they hosted that show as well. God rest his soul, Dave. And what's so cool about that show is you're watching teens, you're watching youth culture challenge their mental and physical capacities, and there's hormones involved in that, and there's not a lot of they're not married, there's no kids, there's no business, I'm going in the direction of like what's acceptable for me in that realm of chaos and drama from what we did in the challenge and like Real World and some of those shows in the early 2000s versus the energy that was like the 2009 to 2015s, maybe say, where cable got pretty sharp, so to speak, is out. That's a nice way of saying it, I think.
Yeah, well, I think so, and correct me if I'm wrong, but social media had to totally change the landscape of reality television, not just any television, but when, like, if you think about some of the early versions of the MTV shows, there was no social media, and now that's everything. That's everything.
Wait, I told Lauren Conrad and Kristin and Steven from Laguna Beach, even before The Hills, I was like, y'all can't go on MySpace. If you go on MySpace and people find out who's dating, if they find out what Lo really did and then how it's not going to be so bueno for us, It's very interesting about gatekeeping that information versus what the community wanted, which was just to be a part of it.
Yeah, just to know, again, the high idea of most of our lives are not very dramatic. We are, we live in a country, I live in Canada, where it's not very dramatic, so we need to create the drama. I live in an upper middle class part of the world.
Drama and comedy, by the way, right? Like, so drama and comedy, they're both really hard art forms. And I've been in, Run's House, with the Simmons family, that was pretty heavily scripted. There was, like, we would sit down in the living room and there would be sides and the family would read and we'd see what was going to happen and they would go and do it. It wasn't like, I don't want to say real acting, but it wasn't like on a set where there's like, you have to get the book right and everywhere, there's intention. We wrote the intention and the punchlines because that's not something that people can land on. That's not something people can land on their own. And that's where most people talk about like reality TV being edited in a manipulative situation, and it is. It's manipulating story, without a doubt. Generally speaking, they refer to it as manipulating character, as opposed to where what makes it fun to why they're manipulating it and what that sort of payoff piece is. But to get to create characters, to get to sit down and with somebody and see how they are going to play out. And Osbourne's had a weird reputation for being staged, but and maybe it was staged, but it definitely wasn't written. We knew if the dog psychic was coming, but it wasn't. But when I think of some of the other shows that, Paul Scheer and Aziz Ansari, like when I think of some of Rob and some of the comedians that I got to work with, Jeffrey Ross, comedy is what a sharp skill set you have to have on that, and that doesn't play well in reality TV unless you have really strong awareness, or really good of what's funny and what's relevant. Mostly what relevant is what's funny, not the punchline itself. So did
you come from like a childhood where you were raised with a lot of TV and film and creativity? How did you grow into where you are today?
Oh, cool question. No, we got cable when I was, I think, in like 9th grade. I wasn't allowed to watch Married with Children growing up. The Simpsons were, jokes that sometimes I can talk about, and sometimes I couldn't. I can't tell people at church if I watched The Simpsons because we weren't supposed to, So I certainly had some of those structures growing up. I played a lot of video games, I'm the oldest of four. Well, growing up, I'm the oldest of four. Now I'm the oldest of six, but I'm the oldest cousin in a big Italian family. I just paused there because, like many people over these last 2 years, we did the 23andMe, and I'm not as Italian as I was originally told, but we don't need to go there. So a big Italian family in Staten Island. And I was the producer. I was Deuce. I would create the shows. I was like, all right, all the cousins, we're going to do this. This is our, Christmas show. And I was always putting on like live events or part of them. I was really interested in computers. I'm a data engineer by trade. I loved television. So as a senior in high school, I became an intern at the Staten Island Community Access Channel, where I learned how to be a data manager, like transcoding tape and then understanding how things were recorded in a control room. But I graduated high school in 95. Between 95 and 2000, what happened to us in this creative field? From beta to VHS to DVD to high DVD to micro, it was a tremendous amount of movement that happened in media. And it was my basic understanding of how to wire two VCRs together. So because that's how I would edit all my family films. I would shoot creative. I would overshoot everything. I would go back home and then I would pause and record on two VCRs, and that's how I would edit my movies. And that's literally how I edited reels. That's how VJs became VJs. That's how Ashlee Simpson got her show. Like literally just thinking of me sitting on my floor in my office, because like you still. And by the way, I left MTV in 2007. Do you know what else happened in 2007? The iPhone. Like podcasts came out in 2006 is when Apple put the podcast on. It's not called an iPhone. The iPod. I almost forgot about that. And I saw when those are big signs to me. Remember, I said like 95 to 2000. I saw tape. I went to school with a P-Touch. It print, and it was a hard disk. The hard floppy disk. They called it a floppy disk. It wasn't. It was a hard disk, and that's big. Understanding how creativity is transferred, understanding how it's consumed, how it's manipulated or sold or distributed. If you don't understand the distribution and amplification of content, it can be. I thought it would be really a disservice, like if a tree falls in the woods and no one hears it, sort of situation. And that's what I love about now, this like creator economy we're in. We hear about like Web3 and decentralized video world, and what that means is you have rights that you didn't have before. You can publish something and own the intellectual property of something you created. 10 years ago, that platform didn't exist, so the action didn't exist. So if you wanted to make something, you had to sell it to a network, which means they own it. You don't own it in America. Or you could do what you've seen other franchises do maybe, which is like take it out of America, sell it to an international territory where the retention is owned by the creator, and then take that and license it. And I bring all of this up because like that's changed. As creatives, that's changed. Listen to the music world. Look at what happened streaming rights for actors, in the last 2 years with the way movies are distributed. And it's all about the movement of creativity, because that's right. As creatives, right? We're just communicators. If it only lives in our head, if a Broadway show lives in my head, does someone see it on Broadway?
The tree falls in the forest, like you said. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Like if I have an Academy Award winning role in my head, does anyone see? And that idea of how do I share what I'm creating? I talked about earlier about a kid, holidays. So I'm always over creative around holidays. We always are, and that doesn't stop, by the way. And I never want it to stop. And I also don't let anyone take that away from me, so I can show up and just be fun in that space as well. And I learned that maybe 20 years in as a executive, as a professional in the creative community, to not gate my talent so much, to not allow people to pay me to let me do what I do, to get to do what I do and find a way to let people pay me. Like that's my burden to take off of them. That's not my burden to put on them. And podcasting for me was something that I felt naturally, sort of drawn to. I love connecting with people. This is basically what I did in castings anyway, except I would cut my voice out. Now I'm doing the exact opposite, and we keep it in, and that's empowering to me because most of my body of work is not my voice, you know.
Yeah.
And that's cool. That's something creators get to do. That like that's exponential.
Yeah, I think, and what I get from what you've done and all in your careers is really given people a voice and given people a different voice than what they're used to, right? Like you were saying, scripted to a non-scripted actor. I watched your interview with Danielle about, finally she gets to do something where she gets to be her, right? And same with like what you're doing now with promoting creatives and podcasting. I think I don't really have a question. It's more of like a statement of like, hurrah.
I'm feeling you on that. No, and you're doing the same, right?
Yeah, but I think what's interesting and what I want to pick your brain about from someone who's kind of newly into doing this, as I'm calling a passion project, but the promotion of yourself is a really difficult thing to swallow because we don't really learn it. And I think when you are a scripted actor, there's a separation of yourself and the character. But now, as you're saying, like unscripted acting or podcasting yourself, you are now the product. You are now trying to promote you. And that's really, really difficult when you haven't been taught how to do it properly or well. Do you have any advice for anyone after this long tirade of mine?
Yes, brilliant. Can I give you 7? I'll give you 7. I'm fully ready for this question. This is a brilliant question. 1, awards. Let me tell you how you win awards. You apply. There's no one walking around handing out Academy Awards and Oscars and Grammys. You get a podcast award and you get an Emmy. And that's not how it works. You pay a fee. You find an episode. You submit it. You have to usually pay for the Academy Awards. You pay to be in the Academy. And then you also pay for the potential nomination. And you pay an additional fee for every producer attached to that nomination. If you win an Emmy, for example, you don't pay for the award. The Academy gives you the award, and it's actually owned by the Academy. But there are other awards that are out there: W3, Communicator Awards, Telly Awards. Maybe you're a creative marketer. There are marketing awards like the Stackies. There are ways to get notoriety, and I think that's important. I think that awards are important. We just, awards are important. One, because we like working with award-winning actors and talent. So if I'm going to hire somebody as a network executive, I often will go to a podcast awards or a content awards and work back because I want to see who's making great content, and that's one of the ways that I can figure out, who's going to rise. The cream rises to the top, whatever that sort of thing is, whatever that means. Awards, though, right? How about this? It's your right to be able to apply for awards. Most actors don't apply for Academy Awards themselves. Most actors have the studio or the production company will actually pick which actors from that movie will go up for feature role, non-feature role, and it's a very political process, right? Because it's all about winning. It's money and it's winning. And some of the coolest stories are the ones where you hear about the actors or the actresses stepping out of line, quote unquote, because they didn't do what the production company wanted to do, but they did what was best for them, and they put themselves up for it. And I can't think of her name. She's the really strong knight.
Gwendolyn Christie.
Yeah, right?
Yep, I remember
do you know
that.
the story?
Oh, yes.
Isn't that powerful? It's powerful.
Yes.
We got goosebumps. Because you should. She knew she deserved. She knew she could have got nominated, and she did get nominated. And she knew in her gut that her performance, it's right where she needed to be. And sometimes, and I want to say this respectfully to production company owners and film houses and distributors who like to control all that. We're not in that day and age anymore. You don't get to control every single aspect of it. But I think it's the actor, it's the creator, the director, the editor, whoever it is that creative, to work in compliance, right, with them, but get them there. So I'm not saying go against your directors and your executive producers, but I am saying don't not do what's best for you, because I've seen that work. For too many people, I've seen it work. I've seen too many times people come to the audition. They say, no, I didn't get it invited, but here I am. And I promise you, those are generally speaking, I love those. I love that. Are you kidding? Oh, someone who's going to fight for a role. Because, I go back to the producer and I say, look at how they showed up. Look at how they showed up for them. Look at how they showed up for this character and this role. And this is not even pay. There's not even an idea of audience. They have no clue who the co-star is. That they're this powerful about showing up. Yeah. So awards are important. Also, credits are really important. I like to tell people right now, I'm a big proponent of creating podcasts. I think that right now we think of podcasts like TV, film, podcasts, books. I think podcasts are going to be like podcast, Giphies, movies, short form content. Like I think we're thinking of podcast because we see it as like an audio form of creativity. Really, it's a unique way. I'll go back to the delivery system of podcasting. It's a really awesome and powerful way of distributing content. It says, I'm a network. Vinnie Potestivo, am a network. I make content. This is my RSS feed. This is my address. And if you want to know what I'm creating, and when I create it and when I post it, I'll let you pull from my public address so that you can see that's powerful. Yeah, wow. We think of what movie's coming out and what time is that TV show. That's a very linear relationship with content, and I think there will be a point in time where like it just comes to us because we program it, we're culling it. But credits are important. I bring up podcasting because IMDb has acknowledged podcasts as a viable digital form of content on IMDb. So you can't listen to your podcast on IMDb, but you can get credit for it, which means you're getting writer, director, showing up as himself, herself. Also, all of your guests get connected. So if you go to I have a podcast page on IMDb, you'll see Mandy Moore and like you said, Danielle Fishel and Kristin Milian and Jamie Sigler. And also, if you go to all of their pages and you scroll down to podcast section, you'll see my podcast. I have a podcast. So it's a great form of discoverability. And then can I give like one quick, awesome, powerful secret? Yeah. One little tiny trick that works. I'm dropping my voice because this is so powerful. There's this thing when you create a podcast and it allows you to input a tagline. And the way that Google interprets that tagline, we know what H1 headers are. We know like the name of the blog is generally the thing that Google picks up on. You would be amazed at how quickly your taglines show up in your SEO output from Google and other search engines. That's how powerful the IMDb, owned by Amazon, AWS, cloud in the sky system is. So, and then maybe I'll come back at another time and we could talk about ages on IMDb, which is a really unfortunate thing, but it's, especially as a creative, especially with ageism running rampant, in our industry and sensitivity to ageism. So any place where we see a number that just encourages ageism is a really tough pill to swallow. That being said, we're in a digital age and Amazon owns IMDb. We as actors, as creatives, we don't get to control that number anymore because there's a demand for authenticity. Amazon's a publicly traded company. It's information we gave them, we validated it, and they've triple validated it from all the other. It's not going to come down. So how we defeat and battle ageism together in this digital age is something to bring up. But again, credit, show up, be in there, and I'll make these. I'll speed it up a little bit. Discovery. So this is where like your bio matters, your profiles matter on social media. I just cast a 30-second spot that ran twice in the Oscars. Just recently. It was focusing on the men and women who were in the industry who got a booster from Pfizer and they returned back to work. I cast the entire episode from IMDb credits. Literally, and I had a week to do it. And I'll tell you how I picked people. You want to know? I picked people who pay for IMDb Pro because to me, a creative who invests in themselves, who pays for their photo, I see that. I see the effort. I know it's not, and by the way, also for anyone who's not on IMDb, don't worry, you get 30-day free trial. So like everything we're talking about here, you're still, and then nothing goes away after it's IMDb. Nothing goes away after your free trial goes away. They got that info for life. But you could upload photos and videos and like, just think of all the things that you can be putting into Amazon and letting Amazon tell Google for you. So that's big for discovery. Also, red carpet moments, the red carpet exists because press wants to know the intersection of now and celebrity. And whatever's happening in the world at that red carpet, we know people will be there. There's an accountability. We know where you are. We know who you are. And we know we'll be able to talk to you about what we want to talk. What the answer is going to be, we don't know. But I have a show on Thursday. I have a live show on Friday. I have a talk show like every single day. They have needs. So they have windows to actually create red carpet moments on Clubhouse. Red carpet moments on Amazon AMP just came out. Fireside chat. I can give you a bunch of cool social. I think that those red carpet moments, like the moments where your audience knows you're going to show up, it's not about. It's not even about. It's about. I was going to say it's not about bringing value. I would say this: live in bringing value. So like, let's not make that a conversation, right? Let's like make everything we do worthy, and then we don't ever have to worry about. Is this adding value? Imagine if I thought every single conversation, is this adding value? I know it's adding value because I'm in it.
Yeah.
And I feel the energy. I'm like a Care Bear. I feel the energy radiating from my little belly right now. And that's distribution. So here, the last 3 points, I said 7, right? Awards, credits, discovery, red carpet. Distribution is important. Right now, social media is our distribution. So if social media is your distribution, be aware that most of what happens in social stays on those platforms, right? Like Instagram stays on Instagram, Facebook stays on Facebook, TikTok stays on TikTok. Very rarely will you, if you have a Google alert set for yourself, will something that you do on social media show up, in Google as something that's searchable for the rest of the world to pull up. So if distribution is social media, I'd be aware of the 2 other types of media outputs that are personal. That's a podcast or a blog or a newsletter. And if I'm going too fast, please reach out to me and tell me I went too fast and ask me questions. If you happen to be a creative who loves LinkedIn, oh man, you're my person. And if you're not, then we just don't know each other yet. There's so much opportunity for actors, for legit card carrying actors, creatives, editors. You're exotic. I don't even want to say we because I am not an actor, but you are exotic on that platform. Think of LinkedIn as the future. If you could think of LinkedIn as a future marketplace for creators and creatives, the same way that the business world is looking at IMDb, a creative platform, and seeing how they're going to penetrate and how they're going to sell to us. So that's where there's a real call for us. Yeah. Blogs are a great way for amplification. So after you distribute something, I like referring people back to newsletters. The newsletters on LinkedIn are SEO rich, or you might have a blog that's SEO rich. And what you're able to do with those blogs is put them in a blog aggregator, a blog amplifier. So there's something called Q, vpe.tv/QUUU. And if you go to the site, it will take you to the amplification platform that allows you to say, okay, my podcast is about arts and celebrity and culture. That's what my podcast is about. And I put it into the system. And the system is feeding to people who are saying, I want to know about blogs that are about celebrities and arts and podcasts. And if you know about a blog that's published recently and has a nice photo and there's some cool words, I want you to send it to me because I need to share that on Facebook. I need to share that on LinkedIn because I don't know these people, but I know I want to be talking about it. Yeah. I know I can be sharing this information because it's the energy I want to be in. And by the way, it's like a $50 a month thing. You upload 10 blogs per month. So if you have a couple of podcasts, do one, and you're getting 2,000, 5,000 people sharing your blog in LinkedIn and Facebook as a thought leader, as opposed to hoping people will like it or engage with it on social media. It's tough. The like thing is tough on social media. Imagine if there was a like button in the theater.
Oh my God.
How sad would that be?
All these things that you're talking about, I think actors in general, I'm sure there are ones who are great at it, but I think we suck at all of those things. And I've only been acting for 2 years. I'm coming from a professional career in medicine, still pursuing that. So I think, and I don't mean this to sound toot my own horn, but I think I'm coming at a lot of these things with a bit higher of an understanding just because of the professional being a doctor. Sorry, that's just
journey.
Like part of it was that networking, distribution, stuff like that. But actors in general suck at self-promotion. I think we've been told opposing arguments about it, as in social media is not as important as everyone thinks it is. On the flip side, it's the most important thing. Oh, let your art do the talking. But how are you supposed to let that happen when nobody can find you? So why do creatives suck at this so much, and how do we fix it?
Yeah, I love it. Acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Know that we're not in it alone. That we all feel that way. You start, by the way, learn that don't try to be like, I would never want to shoot a movie where I'm like the lead actor or something like that tomorrow. There's no way I'm prepared for that.
Right.
I would not succeed. Would I show up and do it and try my best? Yeah, but will my eye contact be wrong, or I don't know, all the weird things that I know, hitting the mark, I speak over everybody, am I breathe, all the things, you know. I'm not ready to win an Academy Award yet. Don't give me my Academy Award. I don't want my Academy Award opportunity yet. By the way, I'm working towards it, and I think that maybe that's a way to to address what you're talking about. There are new tools every single year that are just new tools. I think now we have access to tools that we did not have access to before. If we wanted to edit, we'd have to go to an editing bay. If we wanted to shoot, we needed to get like a $10,000 camera. And then who's going to see it? So we got to rent a film, a theater to show it in, or how do you sell content? Now we have iPhones and screens and social media, and that's changed. And knowing that 18-year-olds, 8-year-olds, and 80-year-olds are all going to be given the same tool for the first time this year, let that give you enough grace and space to be creative. Also, collaboration is a wonderful thing now. We all have a little bit of talent. It used to take like a lot of talent to do something, but like if I can do this, then you can do that, and maybe we can find someone else who can do music, and maybe we know someone else who can do this, then the scheduling, and I can book the talent, and we all have like our thing that makes us special, and getting to use that thing that makes us special. I like that in collaborative environments where there's no sales involved. I'm not looking to sell that project. I'm looking to use that gift that I'm not getting paid for. So to be honest, I started podcasting because I miss being a talent executive. I miss being the call at the network that says, who should we cast for the show? We have one day. I still get those phone calls, by the way, from the networks, and sometimes I'll work on the projects, and sometimes I miss the strategic part of knowing who the right person is, and knowing the right opportunity exists, and then like a bad match, and then what that does for the rest of that conversation, for the rest of those types of chefs, or that type of cooking show, or that type of housewife, whatever it is that ruins it for that category, because we like to make decisions based on the information that we have now, and the information we have now is nowhere close to the grasp of impact that creatives have. And I miss that. And it was in my podcast that I worked with Mandy Moore when she was 14, 15. I know she turned 16, I think, like the first year I met her. I remember her sweet 16. And she was one of the first interviews that I had in my podcast, because I just went back to all my friends that I was very comfortable talking to. I didn't talk to any celebrities that I didn't know, because that would make me nervous, because then that would feel performative. I only talked to people I knew because like I know everyone would be listening to them and not me. So I felt very comfortable. Yep. And with Mandy Moore, it was cool to talk about I first off, from my perspective, I was the guy at MTV with her everywhere. I was her older brother, best friend, guardian. It was me at spring break holding up a towel so no one could see. I was very protective brother, but not overprotective. She's a strong woman, and she's taught me so much. But we were talking about creative decisions, and making and producing came up, and then directing came up, and she was like, I haven't directed yet. I was like, well, it's the last season of This Is Us. It feels like they like when you guys direct. It feels like there's an ensemble. It feels like it's not season 1 and there's trust, and it feels like maybe you should do that. We like laughed about it, and then she brought it up again at the end of the conversation. Like, yeah, that's, you saw it in her eyes. And then just last week, she directed the episode that aired just last week, and it's like, goosebumps are back. So just to inspire creatives, to give them new tools.
Yeah.
So all you creators and editors out there, I sound like Carol Baskin.
Hey, all you.
Hey, all you creators and editors out there. Thank you for creating and being a part of it. And without the audience, there would be no show. And without the show, there'd be no audience. And we need, that reciprocity on both sides creatively. So create. And by the way, and know that even the biggest filmmakers are using new tools now. They're the ones that are creating new tools.
Yeah.
So talk about using tools that, Spielberg redefined the audio, how audio works in theater. Like, no one did it better than him. He just did it differently than everybody else. And I like that kind of growth. I like that sort of nonlinear, sort of circular. I don't know. I think of the universe, and it's round, and people always say, like, how far ahead do I have to pay it forward? And I'm like, till it gets you in the back. It comes around. Yeah, just keep going, man. I know it does. Yeah. I am, because it's happened to me. But I've met a lot of people in castings. This is not nice to say. Well, it's sad. But I met a lot of people in castings that I'm really close friends with that I never got to cast. And that just is a testament to the energy that we create in that room. And I think that's sort of magical. And again, words are different. Culture is different. Vocabulary is different. The norm is different. The status quo is different. Every single award show that we go through gives us another set of rules to bring into our world and figure out how we're going to be able to build on that. And there's nothing that happened last year that can happen this year. And there's nothing that happened last year that would happen the same way that it did now. So I'm saying that to remove any form of insecurity, any doubt of performance, and just create. And by the way, if it's bad, then don't post it. Keep it on your phone. And I promise you there's going to be a platform one day for, like, finally I can post, like all my jumping pictures that I took years ago, like stupid things. Like there becomes a platform. I create for a reason, because I want to. And when that season comes that I get to put it on, maybe so 5 years from now, 10 years from now, that's fine. People will say, Vinny, you look so young. Oh, the pandemic. Do you remember back then? No looking backwards. We'll create forwards. But I'm excited. And podcasting again. I want to inspire people to create podcasts. Podcasts are TV pilots. They're free TV pilots. They're movie pilots. They're punchline. They're skits. They become membership clubs. They become speaking tours. There's just so much that you can create with audio that is rewarding. With video, it gets a little tricky. There's lighting involved, and there's all the other performance of the visual aspect that you have to be pleasing. With audio, you remove all of that, and there's, I think, a greater room for impression. It's like audio is, I don't know which is cooking or baking. Is baking the one where you have to be really precise? Oh yeah. And cooking, So baking, So I would be a better cook. Is that what that means? Like, I'm good at, like, we got carrots, throw it in.
Yeah,
yeah. Baking
Go
is
away
like,
from the
not
script.
one extra.
Unscripted.
Yeah, that's me. And I'm generous on LinkedIn about finding jobs and opportunities for people to stay in the creative arts, because the number one reason why people leave is failure and disappointment. Yeah. And they have jobs, and they have families, and they have houses to pay for, and they have responsibilities to pay for. And creative is not something that happens overnight. Yeah. This is not developing. TV show takes months. Developing a scripted TV show might take years, and then the network goes away, or the production executive changes. They sell their production company, or the president changes, and the national tone is different, and then what was once appropriate on television is no longer appropriate on television, because that's not how we should be talking to people. Yeah.
Well, I think,
and that's kind of a wonderful thing about that.
well, yeah, and I think you've been so much since the beginning, really kind of that one step ahead, or just not one step ahead, but like just seeing how trends have changed and kind of knowing that, and like from like you were talking about at the beginning, all the different technology you were working with as a kid that got to where you are now, right? And I think also what you do is you really kind of redefine what talent is for people. Because I think a lot of, like, you've kind of flipped that definition for, I think, a lot of people in your life from my very, well, I think we streamline, we used to, back in the day before there was so much to be talented at. We always were talented, but it was like, no, you must be actor, you must be director, you must be producer. Where you saw, I think, the ability for people to do lots of things. The world also changed to allow us to do lots of things, but I think you were kind of ahead of that and really kind of encouraging for what it looks like a lot of people, and a lot of influential people who I bet credit you for that.
And the weird thing about us creatives, and here's where I'll stop, because I haven't said this out loud yet, but I really do feel this way. It's unfortunate that we have to explain to people how to work with us. It's unfortunate. It's actually sometimes if there's shame in explaining how to hire me or how to work with me, or sometimes there's discomfort because do you not understand me? Do you not know? No, just know that we are beautiful, exotic people. Our parents didn't get us. Our siblings still don't get us. You would think strangers are going to know how to do business with us. So for us as creatives, being careful what we share, not holding back on information, but not telling someone every single pink color that was used in this frame of art the first time you're explaining it, so that it can be theirs, so that it can become theirs. This idea of creating B2B, person to peer-to-peer, person to person, it's different than when we create it, lock it in on video, and put it out there. And then in the between is the audio place where there's like live streaming audio too. So, but play with these audiences. And the best thing about all these places is that no one needs to know who you are. No one needs, by the way, also between you and I see this about, no one cares either. So that's also so that,
right.
This is the weird part. Like, I hate saying that. It's so mean, but
no, it's
you realize
not.
No one cares.
It's really, it's a relief. It should be a relief, right? Like, because we think so much about, oh my God, they didn't like me, everyone hates me. No, literally no one cares.
Is it my monologue? Yeah. Is it my monologue? No, it's not. It's dinner plans after this with the ex. That's what they're thinking about. And thank you for this awesome creative conversation. This is cool. They get to talk about creativity on any level or any career, whether you've won 5 Emmys and 10 Oscars and are the GOAT. There's second act. It is what it is. There's the first act, there's a second act. Mm-hmm. If you like Shakespeare, there's a third act and a fourth act. There's intermission. And let me tell you something, as a boy who grew up here in New York City, the second act of a Broadway musical, to me, was the best because I could sneak in after intermission. I would sneak in and watch the second act. I have to be honest. I think the second act is sexier. The first act is all about risk, loss, discovery, setup. By the way, you could do that in intermission and then start your second act. You know what I mean? But I love that, and I love that about the theme just of your conversation and where these conversations live and at the timeline, when they do, because you're gonna laugh at yourself when you listen to the 20-year-olds and 18-year-olds and 15-year-olds talking about their second act, and you're like, what? Don't you? It's linear. An act is linear, and I think that's what's cool about this creative process.
If people are interested and inspired, where can they find you?
Run, don't. Just go create. If you're inspired and you're ready to rock and roll, create first. Write it down, create a Google Doc, get some Post-it notes. Reach out and say hi. I'm me, Vinnie Potestivo, on all social media. VPE.tv is my website. I'm launching in April a Creator Accelerator, a free program for creators that I'm offering guidance for how I use certain pieces of software and technology to help me be creatively successful. So I'm excited to launch that. If you're looking to create a podcast, I run the Verified Podcast Exchange, and I help people either create their podcast, come up with an SOP, like a standard operating procedure that will allow you to be sort of like uniquely yourself, or we can do the services for you, and then we win awards. And I apply for awards and we win them, and it's fun and it's awesome uploading. I like updating IMDb pages with credits and awards and seeing it in my Google alerts. I just love seeing the stars shine around me. I work really hard to stay surrounded by the people that I'm surrounded by, and there's no way I could do that if I gated the access that I have to opportunity. There's no way I would ever do that.
I really appreciate what you've been saying, because I think so much of this is overwhelming and it feels like it's secretive, because like all these words and acronyms and ways to feed the algorithm monster and everything like that. But I appreciate what you're doing to kind of like lift the veil, or like go behind the man who's the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain. Because I think nobody's doing that, honestly. And I don't know if it's people trying to keep it secretive or people just don't understand it, but I appreciate what you're saying and what you're teaching everyone.
Oh, I love that.
It's hard. It's hard and it's overwhelming and it's discouraging for people. I think that's why there's such a high atrophy rate and people dropping out of all of this, and which is sad because it kills your creativity.
It kills creativity. It kills the industry.
Yeah.
When you leave, you're gonna get me. I'm not really gonna, like you see in my eyes, like right now. I'm really just like, you leave, you don't come back. Yeah. You go have a family. You tell yourself something that why it didn't work. You say that I chose a family over this. Well, okay, I didn't think I was gonna say this part, but like, I'm a 44-year-old gay man. So like when I was 20. I had to make a conscious decision if I was going to have a family or if I was going to be socially gay, not even professionally gay. Like I had to make a conscious decision to a lifestyle back then when marriage wasn't even in the realm of possibilities. Having a child wasn't even in the realm of possibilities. And I'm happy to say that I'm on my way to having a family. And I'm happy to say that, I'm definitely getting the life that I wanted and that I always knew was capable, but I don't let other people's version of reality dictate mine. And that's what reality TV became, was reality TV for me. Reality TV, if we talk about time, we talk about linearity. Reality TV is in the middle. It's not now. It's not in the future. It's somewhere in the middle is reality TV. We're doing things on camera that we want to be seen for, that we wouldn't have done if the camera wasn't there, but this is changing our life. So there's like, and I'm in that spot right now professionally, as I have like 1 foot kind of in front of the mic and 1 foot still behind the camera, and I'm figuring out like I'm like in this like little in between space. I hope I stay here forever. I've never been more liberated being a creative. I've never felt freer, and also have the ability to put my own constructs on me. And I'm disciplined to do that too. So like that, what discipline means in creativity means like you spent money, you'll learn not to spend money again. So like, and I've spent corporate money and I've spent my own money too. I'm very sensitive about success. You don't realize how easy, it's like that scene in Labyrinth when Jennifer Connelly, she's about to go into and the little worm is like, don't go that way. She's going that way. She's going straight to the castle. And you're like, what? But we would have never got the whole story. But like, wasn't that the goal? Success is so close to you, but you're so focused on the box office, what your manager wants, or what your literary agent wants, or your voiceover agent wants, or your TV agent wants, what they all want so that they can be making money in their categories of business that they're responsible for, because they're not responsible for making you money. They're responsible for making TV money for this agency, and that's why he's a TV agent. So maybe can I come? I never said this, but can I come back and we can just keep talking about this stuff? Because I'm very connected to you, and I love where this. I feel it's like I should send you money for like therapy. By the way, this is wonderful.
Thank Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And thank you, Vinnie, for being my guest this week. Thank you for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to chat with me. I loved every second of our conversation. I was on a high for weeks afterwards. I want whatever he's having with all the excitement, generosity, and joy that he brings to this industry, that he has been bringing to this industry for decades now. Oh, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I hope you will all tune in next week for another episode of Second Act Actors. Second Act Actors is produced and edited by me, Janet McMorty. Theme music by Guillaume. Additional sound editing by David Studio. Additional video editing by Jackie Wadoer. Show notes written by Sarah Hopkinson. I record using Riverside FM. If you're interested in developing an interview-based webcast like mine, I highly recommend this platform. Shoot me an email and I'll direct you to the wonderful folks there. If you or someone you know is interested in being a guest, email me at secondactactors@gmail.com. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. My love language is words of affirmation, so compliments, constructive criticism, and feedback are always welcome and encouraged. Negative Nancys, Judgy McJudgersons, or Debbie Downers, unless you're Rachel Dratch, regarding me or my guests are not welcome. It takes serious courage to share your story with the world, so if you're tempted to negatively comment about someone else's story, please ask your therapist why you're such a garbage person. Save the drama for the stage. On that happy note, I hope you'll tune in next week for another episode of Second Act Actors. Bye!